The guest acquired this aesthetically pleasing sculpture at a yard sale in 2001. Being a sculptor himself, he knew the conceptual uniqueness and craftsmanship of this piece. The sculpture was made by artist Ai Weiwei, a prominent figure in contemporary art known for his activism and innovative approach. The sculpture was from Weiwei's first show in New York City in 1988, titled Old Shoes, Safe Sex, reflecting on the AIDS crisis.
There were about 5 of these that were made, and some of them were actually sold.
The title One Man's Shoe resonates with Weiwei's personal history, as leather shoes were rare in China. Despite its significance, the guest had purchased the sculpture for $30. However, the appraiser estimated its value in a gallery setting to be around $100,000. The guest seemed delightfully surprised to hear the value.
Very good.
Yeah.
Inheriting this mesmerizing cluster ring from her aunt adds a layer of mysterious history to the jewelry. The ring featured a captivating mix of white, yellowish-brown, and blue-green diamonds. The ring offered a distinct period contrast to the 3 principal stones, which added to the ring's allure.
The diamonds themselves are cushion-shaped Victorian cut stones, and I think they were probably cut in maybe around about 1900 or 1905 at the very latest.
Assessing the value of fancy-colored diamonds is quite challenging due to the subtle nuances in color.
What you have to do with them is to send them off to a laboratory where they will actually issue a certificate stating.
How much would the appraiser estimate the value of the rare diamond ring?
And say hopefully at least £2,500 to £3,000, but it could very well be worth £5,000 with all the right gradings.
Well, that's very good news. Thank you.
The guest purchased this buffet at a flea market in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, around 1969 or 1970, to use as a change table for their firstborn baby. They have fond memories of their daughter sitting in a bathtub on top of this buffet at 6 months old. The appraiser identifies the piece as being made by Stickley, specifically through their Craftsman line.
This piece was made by Craftsman, which was a Stickley company which was started at around 1900.
This piece was retailed through their New York showrooms and likely made between 1905 and 1910. Stickley, based in upstate New York, was instrumental in establishing the arts and crafts movement. The buffet is made of oak, featuring quarter-sawn oak panels and hammered coppered hardware.
And this absolutely fabulous hammered copper hardware, these wonderful big hinges. You've got the big ring handle.
It has a compartment for storing plates and bears the Stickley mark, which includes a joiner's compass and...
It says Ils ik kan, which loosely translated means to the best of my ability.
The piece's finish is mostly original, showcasing a color variation along the front edge due to dusting habits over the years. Despite being purchased for $25, the appraiser estimates its current auction value at between $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay, well that's exciting. That's fun. Now we know.
The guest brought in a fascinating pocket watch, a Hunter case housing a full calendar complication. It comes with some really nice features, like the moon phase display, day of the week, month, and date. An intriguing characteristic was the retrograde flyback date, where the date indicator jumped back to the beginning of the month instead of rotating in a circle. While typically a full calendar watch would require multiple levers to adjust each function, this watch only had 2. This peculiarity hinted at the possibility of a perpetual calendar, a far more sophisticated mechanism that automatically adjusts for the varying lengths of months. Unfortunately, the lack of a watchmaker's bench prevented a definitive confirmation of the perpetual calendar function. Further examination revealed the watch's Swiss origin based at the frosted silvered finish and a specific technical detail related to the winding crown. The only remaining clue was a set of tiny hallmarks that, with some effort, were identified as English date marks from 1880. Considering the watch's potential as a perpetual calendar and its overall rarity, its estimated value is somewhere between...
Certainly 2, possibly 3,000.
The Scopes monkey trial, held in Dayton, Tennessee in 1925, gained fame for the debate between religion and science. It began as a publicity stunt after the Butler Act made it illegal to teach evolution in schools. John Thomas Scopes, a substitute teacher, was sponsored to challenge the act.
It really escalates very quickly, and all of a sudden you've got the ACLU bringing in, on their side, the famous attorney Clarence Darrow.
The trial, attracting over 2,000 people, was a national sensation. The book at the center of the controversy was A Civic Biology by George William Hunter.
William Hunter's A Civic Biology was published in 1914. In that, there are sections that clearly discuss the topic of evolution.
Textbooks, like A Civil Biology, were recycled and reused, making surviving copies valuable. An auction estimate for such a copy would be $100 to $200. Charles Darwin's works, particularly The Origin of Species and Descent of Man, are highly sought after. A fine copy of Descent of Man could auction for $3,000 to $4,000, while On the Origin of Species could fetch $100,000 to $150,000.
Francis, it's been wonderful talking to you about all this.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
This family heirloom emphasized the unique taste of this guest great-great-grandmother. This Edwardian-era ring boasts exquisite craftsmanship, with a platinum setting adorned with fine platinum dots surrounding a magnificent oval-cut sapphire flanked by 2 old European-cut diamonds. The appraiser revealed the interesting story of the sapphire's origin.
This period, most sapphires we see came from the Burmese region, so Myanmar, or Kashmir, which is the northernmost region of India.
The sapphire's origin, potentially from the coveted Kashmir region, adds to its rarity and beauty.
I really do feel it is a Kashmir sapphire. If it is not a Kashmir sapphire, it would be a Burmese sapphire, which is also a very beautiful stone.
If it is a Burmese sapphire, the value is ranging from $40,000 to $60,000.
Okay, that kind of shocks me.
However, if it is indeed a Kashmir sapphire, the value has a possibility of reaching $100,000 to $150,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's quite something. Thank you so much. I don't know what else to say.
A toy was brought to the show. It belonged to the guest's grandfather, who received it as a gift from his father. The item was identified as the Clown on Globe Mechanical Bank, made by J&E Stevens Company in Cromwell, Connecticut, during the 1880s or 1890s. It was considered an expensive item in its era, constructed with cast iron. The appraiser explained the winding mechanism.
So after we've wound it, we release the clown, so he's just sitting there like that. Then we hit down this lever, and he flies up in the air.
A rarity among banks of its kind. The item was considered scarce due to a loss of stress points, especially on the clown's arms, which were prone to breakage. The particular bank was in good condition with original paint. The appraiser estimated its value to be around.
I think at auction this bank would bring between $3,000 and $4,000.
Oh my God.
Equipment, once belonging to Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, was brought to the show by this guest, who purchased it for $400 in a small auction near Allentown, Pennsylvania. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was the First Lady of the United States from 1961 to 1963, as the wife of President John F. Kennedy. The authenticity of the items was confirmed in a tag.
The items, and it said a woman named Joy had taken care of this horse, Amber Pigeon, who had belonged to Jacqueline Onassis.
There was also photographs providing a captivating backstory to the horse blanket.
And Jackie was photographed with the 2 kids. Jackie was on her horse, Solo Flight, and in the caption it says that John Jr. is riding Amber Pigeon.
Wow.
The value of both pieces was...
I think it's a great piece. For insurance purposes, I would estimate both pieces from $2,500 to $5,000 for your insurance value.
Would the guest sell it?
Day, I put it on one of our horses, Tony, and he did look great in it, but I think I'm going to save it and maybe put it in a shadow box or do some kind of presentation where I can turn it into decor.
Nice.
Purchased by our guest at an antique shop in Winter Park, Florida, these pieces were acquired from a woman claiming Native American ancestry on both sides. Initially thought to be Cherokee or Seminole, they were recognized as Northern Plains artifacts upon closer inspection. The first item is a Sioux pipe bag from the Plains, likely from around 1880.
And this is usually more empty, but this is heavily beaded, so it's rather unusual.
It is, and it's beaded on both sides.
Right, and you have sort of the tin cones here with some horsehair that's dyed.
The second item, from about 1880, is Southern Plains, Comanche, Kiowa. It's an awl case used for making clothing.
They'd pierce the deer skins, which would help with the stitching. It's very sort of delicate work, very tiny beads, probably from Venice.
Yeah.
And these are glass tubular beads here.
Okay.
The earlier ones would have probably been bird bone, leg bone, or something like that.
The highlight piece is a Strike-A-Light, also Southern Plains Comanche, Kiowa, dating back to around 1860. It's a fire-making tool with brass beads from France.
Now, the back is also quite interesting. This is commercial leather. It's oak tanned. It's probably from saddle leather, some kind.
Purchased 10 years ago for $1,500, the appraised values are approximately $3,500 to $4,000 for the pipe bag, $800 to $1,000 for the awl case, and $6,000 to $8,000 for the Strike-A-Light, making it a valuable collection.
No kidding. That's terrific.
The guest explains that the doll belonged to his mother since her teenage years, stored in his grandparents' attic. The doll was kept in a chest and taken out occasionally. Behold, it's the Jackie Robinson doll, a pristine composition figure snugly nestled within its original box. Jackie Robinson, renowned as the first African-American player in Major League Baseball, was famous for his pivotal role in civil rights activism. Crafted in 1950 by the esteemed Allied Grand Toy Company, wearing the Dodgers uniform and hat. In addition, a baseball bat and 2 brochures are also present. During that era of scarcity for black portrait dolls, the doll's pristine original hang tag stands out as a remarkable rarity. Inclusion of Jackie Robinson's signature on the program significantly elevates its intrinsic value. The doll's auction value ranges from $1,000 to $1,500, with the program alone valued at $1,500.
That's great.
So your total value is around $3,000.
That's awesome.
This woman shared the fascinating story behind a treasured family heirloom, a remarkable 18-karat gold watch with a musical feature dating back to around 1830. The guest's father inherited this watch from his grandfather, and the guest is next in line to inherit it. The watch boasts intricate craftsmanship.
The watch was made in France. What's really wonderful is this face on it, or the dial of the watch, and we have an early American flag on there, so.
The watch played music in 2 different ways.
It would play music on the hour, if you wanted it to, and then there was a button that plays it on demand. I'm going to play this right now.
It had exquisite details, such as a bull's-eye crystal and an engraved galoche back. The value of this French musical watch is estimated at $15,000 to $20,000.
Wow, that is quite the shock. It's been in the safety deposit for like 20 years. So wow, that's great.
This Gustav Stickley clock was brought to the show by this guest, who had to navigate a family dispute before she could inherit it from her father. Gustav Stickley was an American furniture manufacturer, design leader, publisher, and a leading voice in the American arts and crafts movement. What's spectacular about this clock is how it was constructed with quarter-sawn oak that brought about the fiery grain patterns on the case. Also, there are finely done bold tenons on the side and a faint Stickley signature that speaks of the exquisite cabinetry that went into the manufacturing. The clock features a metal dial that is engraved and filled with glass wax. At the bottom of the clock was an engraved Seth Thomas movement, indicating that Stickley contracted out the clock movement manufacturing to Seth Thomas Company. The clock has been rubbed off of its banana lacquer finish, which slightly affects the value. However, the appraised value of the clock is around $3,500 to $4,000.
Goodness, you're kidding.
No.
Wow.
Comedian and actor Ronnie Chang brought his collection of career memorabilia to a movie he was part of.
Maybe it triggers dopamine or something, but it makes it hard for me to throw stuff away.
These items are related to a highly successful movie, Crazy Rich Asians, in which he played the role of Eddie Chang.
I was very lucky to be part of this movie, Crazy Rich Asians. Working on this movie was a life-changing experience, not just from a career point of view, but just the people I got to meet. Till today, we still talk every day. I just let them know I'm doing this.
The script and music sheet highlighted the unique annotations and personal connections to the film. The value of the signed music sheet was $750, and the script appraised at $1,500.
Damn, I should have kept more of these things. We had like 5 of these things in my trailer. I guess money does buy happiness.
This guest shared the fascinating origin of these costume drawings.
And they would be told to make them. When they were done with them, they'd throw them out, and she would go to the trash and just collect them, especially if it was she that did the dress.
Guest presented a trio, each depicting a Hollywood icon in the sketches, such as Elizabeth Taylor, Lucille Ball, and Rita Hayworth. The first piece, believed to be Elizabeth, is valued at $300 to $500.
The reason I put that down towards you is because we have no identifying marks on that one to clearly identify it as Elizabeth, and her face is turned away.
Moving to the middle one, featuring Lucille Ball, the piece valued between $800 to $1,200, reflecting Lucille Ball's fame.
It has some information on the back that identifies Rita and You Excite Me number. And down here we actually have Rita Hayworth.
The Rita Hayworth drawing stood out because of the vivid information at the back of the sketch.
We can see her face very clearly, and there's no doubt about it. What we don't know is which film this is from. It's also possible, which happens a lot, is that we see costumes like this, and maybe the scene that they were used for gets cut from the film.
This piece held a substantial value of $3,000 to $5,000.
It's because we have no identifying marks on that one to clearly identify it as Elizabeth, and her face is turned away. It's possible that it is Elizabeth.
This dusty heirloom clock made its way into the antique shop, carrying more than just time. The Philadelphia marked on the dial offered a clue to its origins. Far more than a mantelpiece ornament, this clock held a lifetime within its ticking heart. E. Howard & Company, #1 regulator, they murmured, the top of the line in accuracy. This is not just a clock, it's a time capsule of 1870. Back in the day, it graced the walls of important places, banks, railroad stations, keeping time that mattered. In pristine condition, with its original bob and gleaming cherry case, this beauty could fetch a fortune.
This would probably bring anywhere from $13,000 to $15,000.
Wow, that's great. That is great.
That is great.
That is great.
This woman brought an antebellum slave journal to the show. Her father, a black history enthusiast, acquired it from a Nashville bookstore in the 60s. The $50 journal revealed a remarkable account of a slave named Creed, documenting the details of his life from 1824 to 1860.
It gives a highlight, just as an example with Creed, that he had a family, the skills he had, and how they were utilized during his tenure as a slave.
The entries included Creed's role as a slave.
Creed was the main gardener and market man, and even went to Washington, D.C. with Daniel Graham for a short period.
The estimated value of this document ranges from $15,000 to $20,000. What would be the owner's plan for this historically important journal?
Yes, I'd like to follow through and try and find the families of the slaves.
Right.
From 1870 moving forward.
Yeah.
The next item to be considered is a mosaic glass inkwell. This special piece has the signature and monogram of Tiffany Glass and Decorating Company. The founder, Louis C. Tiffany, is an American artist and designer widely known for his work in stained glass. This inkwell is a rare piece made especially with inset small pieces of colored glass tiles.
Tile that looks a little more like this, but one of the things that I've always noticed is that the color gradates. It's usually a little brighter at the top, and then it gets darker as it approaches the bottom.
Inside, it has both a bronze and glass liner as its container. This Tiffany Studios mosaic inkwell belonged to the guest's late aunt.
Since I was a child, and when she passed away, I asked for it and they let me have it.
For such a rare piece, it's worth
For anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000.
Goodness. Wow.
Calling all the jewelry lovers with an eye for Italian design. Get ready for the fabulous item of the day, a Bucalotti silver pendant and chain. Once cherished by a departed friend, this piece now stands as a poignant gift in the guest's possession. The necklace is too hefty for daily wear, yet its allure endures. It's sterling silver by Bucalotti, an Italian company.
They were known for fabulous gold pieces, lots of colored stones, intricate workmanship.
This is a Saturn mask pendant from the 1940s to 1950s.
An auction value is between $800 and $1,000.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
The Navajo saddle blanket, belonging to the guest's great-grandfather, has been stored in a cedar chest for many years. This particular blanket stands out as a fancy saddle blanket, which were often considered utilitarian. However, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, these blankets became more decorative, known as Sunday saddle blankets for eye dazzlers, as they were reserved for special occasions. The blanket, dating back to 1910 to 1920, is finely woven and shows signs of wear consistent with being used under a saddle. Despite this wear, it's a valuable and rare piece, with an estimated market value of $1,500 to $1,800 at auction.
Wonderful.
This oil painting that the guest brought unveils an interesting background story about its painter. The guest sought pieces from black artists, in which the art dealer recommended Helen LaFrance. The guest purchased the painting around 2015.
She didn't have any formal training as an artist and didn't begin painting full-time until she was in her mid to late 60s.
Her unique memory paintings captured rural Kentucky life.
My guess is that this painting was probably done in the early 2000s.
The painting is estimated to be valued between $8,000 to $10,000.
Wow. Okay. Good deal.
These fascinating set of photo albums are a cherished souvenir from the Harriman expedition, once owned by the guest botanist great-grandfather. A notable aspect of these albums was the involvement of Edward Curtis, an American photographer and ethnologist whose career unfolded in the Northwest.
And was invited to become a member of this important expedition, so it was his first major assignment.
The Harriman expedition focused on mapping Alaska's topography and scientific experiments. Astonishingly, the albums were presentation albums that contained original prints.
So these are actually original silver prints.
You're kidding.
Original silver prints with Curtis's signature down here in the negative. Almost half of the images in the albums are credited to Edward Curtis.
Okay.
These two pair of precious albums valued at $30,000 to $40,000.
Carry them gently, gently back to the house.
This 19th century miniature bracket clock is a prized possession, received by the guest father-in-law from his boss, Jasper Crane. The clock, likely given in the late 1960s, is a miniature version of a standard bracket clock, making it highly desirable to collectors.
The most popular today with collectors and the most valuable are the very large ones and the very small ones, like this.
It features an ebonized case, a miniature handle, ball feet, and a brass dial signed Grimaldi and Johnson.
If we open up the dial door, we can see that it's signed on the dial Grimaldi and Johnson,
indicating its origin on the Strand in London. The clock's movement, though small, is of high quality, similar to those found in larger bracket clocks. With an estimated value of $6,000 to $8,000.
Oh my goodness. I'd rather have it than the grandfather clock.
I'm sure you would.
It is a valuable and cherished piece with a fascinating history. This gorgeous table is a rare product of Louisiana furniture. Louisiana is a city in the United States known for its production of iconic furniture. The owner got it from his father, who purchased it for an amount between $10 to $20. He used it as a storage table for paint cans, and you can see the marks left on the table. The table was made from a cypress wood that is water/rot resistant and durable. It has no dovetail, making it more like French furniture. There are rare brasses on it, which makes it typical Louisiana furniture. Despite the marks on the table, it's worth between $3,000 to $5,000 at auction.
A paint holder.
No, it's
no
not.
No more paint.
No more paint.
I can't thank you enough.
This exceptional object is an Asian guitar used for ceremonial purposes. It was forgotten in the house this lady and her family had moved into in Detroit. The guitar is a late 19th century Chinese example of a sanxian. It is a 3-stringed guitar. Young ladies play the instrument during tea ceremonies and banquets. The soundboard is veneered to a rosewood or hongmu clad in snakeskin, and the string is fixed on tropical hardwood. The fingerboard is inlaid with a stylized vase, floral sprigs, and chubat at the top, and its tightening rod is designed with lotus leaves and its end and pods with ivory caps. These special attributes differentiate it from its 20th century version. It is interesting to know that the guitar would be worth between $3,000 and $5,000 at auction.
And an appropriate insurance value would probably be about $7,500.
Okay. Wow.
The guest presented a parka worn by him during climbs and races. The appraiser noted the World War II pilot's name tag on the jacket. It also bore the initials EH, signifying it was once owned by Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person to summit Mount Everest in 1953. The guest friend, Bill Dens, obtained the parka from Hillary in 1983 and later gave it to the guest as a gift. Dens, a legend in New Zealand mountaineering, tragically passed away in a climbing accident in Nepal in 1983. The guest recounted wearing the parka on various expeditions.
I wore it to Greenland in '86 when we went to look for the World War II P-38 airplanes on the Greenland ice cap. It was so historical, I always just wear it to special occasions.
The item was made of European material with coyote fur. Due to its association with legendary climbers, the value estimated was around.
I believe that at auction, this parka would sell between $4,000 and $5,000. It's just such an incredible historic piece, amazing historic find. Thank you very much for bringing it.
This Smokaware mug, acquired by the guest when cleaning out their parents' basement, turned out to be a valuable find. Smokaware was made in England in the early to mid-19th century, and
it was virtually never marked. It was certainly sold in England, but it was also shipped to the United States as well, where it was bought by people of modest means. They made lots of pictures.
The mug features a unique decoration on the middle band, which the appraiser notes has never been seen before. This distinctive decoration adds to its value, estimated to be in the range of $1,200 to $1,800 at auction. The guest had initially stored the mug in their attic until they saw a picture of Smokaware in a magazine, realizing the similarity and prompting them to have it appraised. This medal was inherited from her grandfather that he won in the Boston Marathon in 1921.
This is a picture of him to the side in his running suit.
And what was his name?
Otto Loxo. We really are proud of him. He died very young, so I never got to meet him.
He died very young. He tragically had a massive heart attack while training. The 1921 Boston Marathon was the 25th running of the iconic race. The medal was designed by artist Weinman and featured a winged woman and a laurel wreath. It was made of bronze and gold with a white ribbon. The front of the medal read Boston Marathon and the year, while the back featured the name of the winner. The medal, with its bold design and historical significance, remains the most remarkable victory. The estimate on the medal for insurance value was at $1,500 to $2,000.
Really? Oh, wow. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This woman enthusiastically shared the fascinating story behind her inherited jewelry, the exquisite piece acquired as part of an inheritance from her aunt.
Van Cleef & Arpels made this probably in the late 20s, and it was a dress clip.
The magnificent combination of style added to the originality Art Deco design. But how much would this historically significant jewelry be valued?
I would say if you had to go to public auction, we'd estimate it $5,000 to $7,000.
Wow.
Which is
That's
great.
Extraordinary.
If it was intact, probably $10,000 to $15,000.
No kidding.
So you've got a lot of value here.
Thank you.
This bell came from the ship captained by the guest father during World War II. The wartime actions of HMS Havelock were crucial in the Norway campaign at Narvik.
In the Norway campaign, and that, of course, was a very crucial action, one of the first attempts to stop the Germans spreading through Europe.
The guest father kept a diary, providing a glimpse into life at sea during that period.
Dinner aft and slipped at 21:15, out safely, lovely calm, clear light, 12 knots only, 2,300 hours.
How much is this bell valued?
But I have to say we're looking at something like £800,000, possibly more, for a bell that is off a ship of great significance.
Really?
Yeah.
An extraordinary connection is forged between a student and his art professor, Clifford Still. This painting was given to the guest's husband, who was a Clifford student, as a housewarming present. Clifford Still had quite an interesting career. He was an American painter and one of the leading figures in the first generation of abstract expressionist. He even has a museum named after him, where his unique arts are displayed. Let's shift focus to the painting itself, titled Grand Coulee Dam. It was created during the construction of a monumental dam in Washington. The painting is signed by Clifford and dated 1937 at the bottom of the painting. An insurance value for this piece would be a whopping $500,000. With intricate patterns, vibrant colors, and skilled artistry, French porcelain vases exude timeless elegance and sophistication, enhancing any space with their refined presence. They've been in their family since 1972, when their mother acquired them at an estate sale in Westchester County, New York. The buff-colored ceramic suggested its potential Japanese origin, the Satsuma. Satsuma, a Japanese porcelain, showcases lavish gilding and vibrant enamel colors on a buff-colored base.
And certainly you have all this different influence. You actually have the influence of cloisonné as well.
The piece displays superb quality, featuring intricate vignettes and a striking foo dog or foo lion on top. Let's take a look at the details at the bottom. Except for the character marks, they appear as gibberish, with no meaning. The intriguing aspect is that they originate from France. These pieces likely stem from the 1870s or 1880s, around the time of the 1878 French Exposition. Despite their beauty and visual appeal, they would fetch a price range of $5,000 to $7,000 as a pair.
Very nice.
This unique sculpture was a gift from the guest's former mother-in-law during the mid-60s.
His name is Pulcino. And Pulcino means young chicken or chick.
This piece was created by sculptor Alessandro Pianone. He worked under the Vistasi Company in 1956.
He had already attended school to become an architect and designer, and he was hired to join the firm to design their company's logo and to produce designs that would be made in glass.
The glass sculpture featured a charming 1960s chicken design, distinguished by its textured murine surface and spindly copper legs. The value of this whimsical sculpture was...
In a retail venue, this would sell in the neighborhood of $7,500.
Oh my goodness, that's a real shocker.
This man brought this remarkable waist belt clasp, featuring a stamp on the back from the Earl's Court exhibition. Notably, on the front, there's a stamped reference to the 1887 Jubilee, marking Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee. This holds historical significance as it coincides with the first appearance of Buffalo Bill in England with his Wild West show. There was also an iconic moment when Queen Victoria complimented Annie Oakley.
And there's Annie Oakley firing away, laying back on a horse. And she was introduced to Queen Victoria, and Queen Victoria said to her, "You're a clever little lady."
The guest bought this waist belt clasp for only £30. Would it double in price?
I would think possibly £300 to £400.
Really?
Oh yes, Annie Oakley is really collectible.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Next up is this beautifully designed vase. The owner acquired it just because he thought it looked beautiful. It's a product of Overbeck Pottery, a company of 4 sisters from Indianapolis. The vase, just like others, has the OBK mark, which stands for Overbeck. This vase was produced in the late 19th and early 20th centuries when art and craft influenced Overbeck's productions. On the vase is an art of a man running in a striped suit with a pink sun shining through a tree behind him. The images of the tree are triangular, and it serves as a perfect example of a conventionalized design, which is a form of art and craft technique that uses geometric distillation of the original design.
It's such a great example of their work. It's colorful, it's matte painted, it's hand thrown, it's tooled, it fired very well, virtually every side fired evenly, which is a technical achievement.
For an item purchased for just $4.99 by its owner, how much do you think it's worth at auction?
At auction, it would bring somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000.
Can't believe that.
This is a piece of history, an impactful speech typed and signed by the legendary physicist Albert Einstein. It was acquired by the guest father-in-law during his time at Yale. Albert Einstein was a German physicist who is believed to be one of the greatest scientists of all time. This document carries Einstein's thoughts on technological progress and its impact on humanity. Passed down through generations of physicists, this transcript captures a moment when Einstein addressed the student body at Caltech in 1931. Einstein's words, encapsulated in this transcript, pondered the paradox of technological advancements.
It's a short speech, and in it, he is talking about whether or not technological advancements are a good thing for humanity.
The mystery of its origin only adds to the allure of this document. Whether a transcript for press distribution or the speech itself, Einstein's signature transformed it into a unique item. How much do you think this piece of intellectual history would be worth?
But conservatively at auction, I would estimate this at $10,000 to $20,000.
This collection of photos belonging to the Guest family includes a particularly rare and poignant image taken 2 weeks before the invasion of Normandy Beach. The Guest highlights the significance of seeing the beach before the invasion, a perspective often overlooked in history. The photo was taken with the 325th Recon Unit and shows the beach at low tide.
At the end of each one of those poles is a mine. So at high tide, you wouldn't see them.
Oh, wow.
This detail adds depth to the historical context of the photo. The appraiser values the photo group at $300 to $500.
Really?
I'm so excited that you brought them in.
Wow, that's great.
The appraiser was appreciating the historical significance and rarity of the images. One would intriguingly wonder what this is. It looks like foil paper, but instead, it's a sculpture made by Noah Purefoy. Noah Purefoy was an African-American visual artist and sculptor. The Guest husband got it as a gift from Noah, who was his colleague at the time.
My home for 50 years.
The Watt riot inspired Watt to work on this amazing piece with the Guest husband. The sculpture was made of debris and materials scavenged from the Watts Rebellion. These materials were fused together to form the sculpture. For such a rare and historic gem, insurance is a great idea. It can be insured for $125,000.
You're kidding me.
This Guest brought his birthday present, gifted by the renowned sculptor Alexander Calder. During a visit to Europe at the age of 14 with his parents, they stayed at Calder's compound near Paris.
And I was a 14-year-old boy getting around, and I happened upon his studio and peeked in and watched him working. He had Parkinson at the time, but when he worked, his hand would be still.
Alexander Calder presented him a sculpture as a 15th birthday gift.
Calder is one of America's leading sculptors of the 20th century. His father was a very prominent sculptor. He was an academic sculptor.
This sculpture is described as a mix of stable and mobile.
He was interested in mechanics and engineering, and you can see how that became part of the artwork that he started to do.
This piece's provenance recommends authentication from the Alexander Calder Foundation.
As you can see, these are relatively easy to make, so they're very easy to be faked. It's almost impossible to sell them without the certificate.
The piece valued at $250,000 in a gallery setting.
Wow. Jeez, that's amazing.
This artifact, originating from the owner's grandparents, dates back to the mid-1930s. Possibly the owner's grandmother's cigarette case, now repurposed for their cigar utensils. This is made of bronze and possibly white jade, offering a unique aesthetic. It's a Chinese white jade garment hook, likely from the 18th century, paired with a box likely from the early 20th century. The primary value of the item lies in its white jade, prized by Chinese clients for its historical significance. Yet some may discard the rest, keeping only the valuable jade. Some worry that cigar smoke might change its worth, but others like its old look. Dirt in the corners makes it seem more real and attractive, not less valuable.
An auction or fair market value would be $2,000 to $3,000.
What? Well, that'd buy a lot of cigars,
there
wouldn't
we
it?
go.
This is an 18th century French orbit clock. The owner of this golden piece bid $10,000 for it at an auction and won. The clock has holes drilled at its front for the winding.
This meant that it has a pendulum instead of a balance wheel, which is the earlier type. And so when you wound it, you didn't have to turn it around and disrupt the pendulum. The mechanism is down here.
It has an annular ring above, which represents the minutes, and another below, representing the hour. The clock is made out of the fusion of gold and mercury and has plain brass inside. This piece was also made of many intricately cast pieces. At auction, just the clock is worth $25,000 to $30,000. For the complete piece, together with its candelabra,
I think it would be fair to say that they would run over $60,000 if they're as in good condition as this is and as fine.
Wonderful.
Here is an art collection of Lionel Feiniger's works. Feiniger is a German-American painter and artist known for his artistic depiction of ships, cities, and streets. The guest got the collection from her parents, who were Feiniger's neighbors. The collection has a letter written for the guest as a baby, a watercolored painting that depicts one of his seascapes,
This was a birth gift that he gave.
a painting of woodcut attached to a letter,
A note he wrote to my grandmother and her second husband with one of his woodcuts on it.
and a painting of Ceres called the Ghosties. These beautiful collections were from his earlier works, which are in great demand. The seascape painting is signed and dated. At auction, it is worth between $15,000 to $25,000.
And for the woodcut, because it's hand-coloured, it's going to be around about $5,000 to $8,000.
Wow.
The painting of the Ghosties is estimated to be worth between $15,000 and $25,000. The entire collection is worth.
So all in all, it's going to be $40,000 to $60,000.
Wow. That's fabulous. Thank you very much.
Get ready to discover how a $10 investment transformed into a priceless masterpiece in this painting.
He was born in Chicago and was something of an artistic prodigy.
The guest recounts acquiring the painting at a garage sale in Sarasota, Florida in 1987. The skillfulness of this artwork attracts viewers. The masterful brush of Gordon Stevenson brings this piece to life, showcasing his brilliance as an illustrator. Stevenson began his career with mural paintings in Chicago schools before refining his skills in Europe under the guidance of Spanish Impressionist Sorolla. During World War I, Stevenson painted camouflage for the Navy, and later he became an illustrator, producing covers for Time magazine. The painting is oil on masonite, likely from 1939 or 1940.
We see how he's incorporated all of these sporting images into creating the image of this character.
Sporting imagery intricately captures scenes of salmon fishing and duck hunting.
And then beneath that is a chap that's fanning the fire, which is going through his lips. The dimple in his chin is a frying pan.
The painting exhibits minor pigment losses. The guest is currently undertaking cleaning and conservation work on the painting. It's time to unveil the current worth of this masterpiece.
Today, I think this would easily sell at auction in the between $3,000 and $5,000 range.
Wow. Right. Wow.
Do you have any hidden treasures like this lying around in your basement? This relic of cinematic romance found its way to a local antique store. Guided by her knack for uncovering treasures, the guest mother had acquired this piece for about $150. This piece, a plywood tableau sculpted by hand, was destined for a rustic cabin once owned by cowboys. Intricately cut on a table saw, this artwork was inspired by the classic 1938 romantic comedy.
I'm so excited for you to tell me.
This was actually inspired by the 1938 film. It was a classic.
Amazing.
A romantic comedy. Yeah,
that is
The
amazing.
Cowboy and the Lady.
Oh, my goodness.
Crafted with care, the sculpture was beautifully made completely out of plywood.
Amazing.
And I think it's beautifully done. The jeans are great because some of the varnishes come off and they expose the earlier blue.
Oh, I see
that
coming through.
Yeah.
Every detail, from the vibrant red cowboy boots to the exposed blue of the jeans, adds a layer of charm. Can you guess the value of this masterpiece?
It has appeal as folk art and kind of kitsch. You could put an insurance value on this of about $1,800, $1,800.
My goodness, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
This woman described this peculiar vase as the ugly vase. The guest brought it from a Dutch dealer for $580 15 years ago. The vase is not a bizarre vase, but a fascinating modernist piece.
It has animal, it has bird, it has female figural, all of this happening in this piece of...
It turns out to be crafted by the famous French artist Jean Cocteau.
Jean Cocteau was French, and he was a fine artist, a painter, a draftsman. He was also a poet.
This piece was also associated with Picasso's foray into ceramics.
Picasso did this for longer, and he did over 600 different forms. Cocteau, who started in 57 and did that until his death in the 60s, did about 300 different forms.
The unique pointing out detachable horns notes an original edition from Cocteau's studio. The value of this vase is estimated from $10,000 to $15,000.
Sorry. That's fun for an ugly vase. Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you.
This clock, an award from Burnett Extracts, has been part of the Guest family for years, although its origins are unclear. Found in the basement, it was never prominently displayed and has not worked for as long as the Guest can remember. He considered taking it to a clock shop to restore its functionality. The appraiser identifies the clock as a Baird advertising clock, manufactured by Edward Baird, who began with the Seth Thomas Clock Company in 1879.
But he moved up to Montreal in 1887 and started this Baird Manufacturing Company.
These clocks were among the first used for commercial advertising, made of papier-mâché and promoting various products. This clock, in particular, advertises Burnett's Extracts, highlighting
Joseph Burnett was responsible for making this country's first vanilla extract.
The clock features an original label inside, a rare survivor, providing setup directions. These clocks are considered collectible, straddling the world of clocks, folk art, and advertising. The appraiser estimates its retail value at $2,500 to $3,000.
Yes.
From the vibrant tapestry of fashion history, this colorful fiesta dress emerges, a relic from the 1950s, crafted by the skilled hands of designer Alita Wilson of Santa Fe Designs. According to the Guest, this dress was a gift.
This was a gift to my aunt in the early 50s, and it was given to my aunt by the designer Alita Wilson of Santa Fe Designs.
A closer look at the dress shows that every stitch tells a tale of craftsmanship. Rows of rickrack embellish the bolero and skirt, creating a dazzling effect under the light. In the realm of fashion, this fiesta dress has an estimated value between $600 and $800. This beautiful, iconic piece of art is the work of Joseph H. Davis. Joseph was an American painter who is well known for his double portrait of married couples. He loved lively and decorative patterns and bold designs like the ones on the carpet. The Guest brought this painting from his home.
This is an original painting which has been hanging in my house since it was originally painted in 1836.
The painting has the image of the Guest grandparents. The way the floor cloth is painted shows Joseph's understanding of pattern, line, and color. In the same painting, there is a picture of a blacksmith making a wagon wheel, a painting of a cat on a floor, and a holy book on the table. This beautiful piece is worth $40,000 to $50,000 at auction. This piece found its way to the Guest great-grandfather in the early 1930s. The painting was, however, done by none other than Hovset Pushman, a true talent in his prime. Hovset Pushman's journey began in the rich cultural tapestry of Armenia.
Pushman was born in Armenia and, in fact, studied in the Institute in Istanbul. His family later came to the United States, initially in Chicago.
Pushman had a deep interest in Asian arts, mysticism, and spiritualism. Within the canvas, an Asian figure stands amid symbols of rebirth, a blossom and a fading rose.
A symbol of rebirth, with the blossom on the right, and also with the really delicately fading away rose in the small vase.
The Guest further reveals letters from Hovset Pushman that provided insight into the artist's thoughts and the spiritual meaning behind the Persian book. The appraiser gives an auction estimate of $15,000 to $25,000 for this. However, acknowledging its unique attributes, its insurance value ranges from $50,000 to $75,000.
Okay. Thank you very much.
It's one of the best I've ever seen.
This Colt single-action .45 caliber revolver with a 5.5-inch barrel is a treasured family heirloom. It originally belonged to the Guest great-grandfather, who was a sheriff and the...
I noticed this photograph here. It says that he was the first police chief in 1885?
About 1885. Don't know the exact date.
Okay.
The revolver is factory engraved and comes with its original holster. These factory letters confirm its authenticity and notes that it was shipped to Hartley and Graham in New York in 1885. The revolver originally had hard rubber grips, but custom pearl grips with the great-grandfather's initials and a steer head were added later by Hartley and Graham. Despite some damage to the grips, the revolver's historical significance and documentation make it highly valuable. The appraiser estimates its worth at $25,000, highlighting its rarity as an engraved single-action revolver.
You're kidding.
No, serious.
That's hard to believe.
That's a great
That's
thing.
That's awesome.
Very few engraved single actions.
25,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
This complete collection of Mark Twain's works was brought to the show by a guest who implied that his grandfather acquired it before passing it down to him among other miscellaneous books and papers. Mark Twain, an American writer, humorist, and essayist, is often regarded as the father of American literature. The set consists of 25 different stories, considered to be Mark Twain's complete works at that time. However, the distinguishing feature of this collection is the inclusion of Mark Twain's signature, along with attached short stories complementing the main body of work. Additionally, the binding is a masterpiece that exudes classical American binding. The appraiser valued the set at around $35,000 to $50,000 at the auction.
That's quite something. Thank you.
Thank you.
The guest brought a robe that belonged to her grandmother. The item was identified as a Chinese robe. The appraiser examined the robe closely, noting its unique features. It was designed for a child, likely a eunuch serving in the palace. The style indicated that it was from the 17th to 20th centuries.
Certain things change, and one of the things that change is this area in the robe in the bottom. It's called li shui. Later on into the 20th century, this gets longer and longer and longer.
The robe contained motifs representing the firmament and gold-threaded dragons. There were also round figures like flames, celestial pearls, and bats symbolizing prosperity. Made of silk with silk embroidery, it reflected the period around 1850 when numerous attendants served the emperor's need, including cleanup work. The appraiser estimated its auction value at around...
At auction, I would expect this robe to sell for around $2,000.
Wow. Great.
The guest inherited the books from her parents, which is one of the most famous books in American literature. It was Harper Lee's first edition of To Kill a Mockingbird. There's a personal inscription by the author herself.
That we have here in our country. And when we open it up, this is the first edition. It's inscribed. And who did Harper Lee inscribe it to?
This makes it a special and valuable edition. The inscription connects the reader with the author's own words. It's important to understand its rarity and significance. Harper Lee's signature adds to its value. It's more than just a book. It's a piece of literary history. It's a treasure to be cherished and passed down through generations. The estimated value at auction was $15,000 to $20,000. The guest brought in a large pilot's watch, initially valued at around 2,000 pounds based on its design and markings. It is, however, a World War I Omega model because of its clean white dial and black numbers, a style ideal for pilots who needed to read the time quickly in the cockpit. The large size, another characteristic of pilots' watches, would have made it suitable for wearing outside a thick leather or fleece flying jacket. The guest had purchased the watch for a mere 70 or 80 pounds 22 years ago at a market stall.
70 or 80 pounds, and I think I gave him about a tenner to get it fixed, which was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
However, a hidden detail inside the watch completely transformed its value. A faded inscription on the back revealed a repair bill dated 1933 from T.E. Shore, located at Clouds Hill, Clouds Hill. This was the residence of Lawrence of Arabia, a famed British military officer and archaeologist who played a pivotal role in the Arab Revolt during World War I. The inscription hinted at a fascinating possibility. The watch might have belonged to Lawrence himself. Owning a timepiece that once belonged to such a legendary figure would be highly desirable for collectors, significantly increasing its market value. In this light, the watch's value ranges from
maybe 5, maybe 10.
Good God, I better get it insured.
This Steiff bear, inherited from the guest mother's grandmother, is a rare find. With its beautiful cinnamon color, great fur, pads, and shoe button eyes, it stands out as a unique piece. This particular bear is one of the first cinnamon bears seen on the program, adding to its rarity and value. It's estimated to be from around 1905. The bear is in incredible condition. Similar bears have been sold for $6,000 to $7,000, making this one potentially worth $8,000 to $10,000.
So I think it was worth your waiting around. I hope you don't miss your plane.
Oh, me?
The guest from St. Columba's Cathedral brought in a captivating oil sketch by Irish artist Walter Osborne. He was an Irishman born in Dublin and painted in a very modern way. The painting, created in 1901, depicted Eleanor Alexander, daughter of the famous hymn writer Mrs. Cecil Frances Alexander and Bishop Alexander. Looking into the family history, it was discovered that Bishop Alexander became Archbishop of Armagh after his wife's passing in 1895. Eleanor Alexander left the painting to her companion, who then passed it down the family lineage before it eventually came to the cathedral. While oil sketches are generally considered less valuable than fully finished paintings, this piece is still incredible. Osborne's masterful use of brushstrokes to capture the essence of the subject's dress with minimal detail is captivating. Considering the growing popularity of Osborne's work, the painting could potentially fetch a price exceeding
more than 80,000. It's a possibility.
That's wonderful news.
The guest brought in a beautiful Regency period writing table, estimated to be from the 1820s. It's a well-made piece by a likely Scottish craftsman, crafted from high-quality mahogany. The guest, however, had concerns about the table's value due to sun damage from sitting in a bay window.
John didn't like the curtains being drawn, so it stood in the sun.
It's a working table.
And it was the morning sun.
However, the leather top was a later addition, likely replacing an originally designed exposed mahogany surface. This modification significantly reduced the table's value. Despite this, the table's design elements are magnificent, including the intricately carved base with Greek Revival features. The table's functionality and timeless design are all contributing factors to the value of this incredible piece. Considering the sun damage and the altered top, the previous valuation of £35,000 is revised down to a more realistic range of
minimum of 10, possibly 12,000 is more realistic, because it's great.
The Brugine doll came to the guest family from her husband's grandmother, who was a renowned doll collector. It's a fascinating doll, produced around 1875 by Bru, which was renowned as the foremost doll-making company in the late 19th century. The doll features exceptional quality with a closed mouth, a swivel head, blue eyes, pierced ears, and bears the trademark Bru Company mark at the back of the head. Although the dress and some parts of the body have been reconstructed using German leather, the doll remains a fine piece that every collector would love to have. The guest explained how the doll had been initially appraised and was skeptical about the current price due to the plummeting prices of dolls in the auction market. However, the appraiser valued the doll at between $12,000 and $16,000.
Wow. Wow, that's great.